Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It's March the 1st of 2023, and we are kicking off March... March Metalness?
March Metal Malcolmists.
That's better than anything I was going to come up with. I went through about 5. They were like, no, it's not funny.
See, that's the thing, Nick. You can't let that be what stops you. You just got to do it. I didn't say that thinking, this is funny. I said it thinking, I'm going to say it and no one's going to tell me no. Not Nabutaku, not Professor Peanut's not back there, but no.
Certainly not me, because I can't stop you for shit. No. So, I've been trying for years. So, guys, it's Weekly Manga Recap time. I'm Nick, joined by Quinn, and we have been reading a manga for a while now that we're going to be talking about today. This is one that I guess you could call it, I guess it's been a long time coming, in that we started a manga podcast and haven't talked about it yet. And when you have any type of manga show, especially one that typically focuses on particularly shonen manga, I feel like you kind of have to talk about this one at some point. And we just never did until today. So
yeah, to be fair, this series had ended by the time we started the podcast, and we both have read it and talked about the fact that we've read it before. So it was never like, it's not something like, Dragon Ball or something like that, where it's like, oh, you guys haven't gotten around to that yet, and we will eventually, give it time. But this is just one that's kind of been I guess we've never officially done an episode on this, so
yeah, even when we did those kind of early editions where in between talking about a recommendation, we would let's talk about a series that we're just both already familiar with, what are some things that we would improve about, Bleach or iShield 21 or what have you. This was not one of those. I'll admit that part of it comes down to the fact that although definitely this was a big influential series for me, as it was for a lot of people who were getting into anime at the time that I was, at the age that I was, Fullmetal Alchemist has never really been one of my big favorite series.
Get ready, guys. Nick is about to give a negative review to Fullmetal Alchemist. All right, Nick, I'm going to hold them up. You just start going for the body.
I kind of wish that I could, just for the sake of, it would be, a good hot take, because, it's hard to kind of go after it. But, in all honesty, it would just be... I would be completely disingenuous if I did. It would be hard for me to be really negative on this series because, it's good. I came back to this series, Fullmetal Alchemist, which, what has not been said about this manga? It's had 2 different anime series based on it. They were both very successful, both in Japan and when they were dubbed in English as well. It definitely bears some, or deserves rather, some credit for helping to kind of escalate anime and manga into more of a mainstream audience in Western culture, because it was just very popular, and it was one of those kind of series that even if you weren't really into very shonen-y series, it was definitely kind of a gateway for a lot of people to start getting into it. There's a ton of iconic characters and lines and memes based around spoilers that it has definitely left its mark on pop culture history, and especially, you know, like the online fandom for anime and manga. So I had managed to kind of just like leave it behind essentially when I read the last chapter, you know, over 10 years ago, and I came back to it basically fresh after having not thought of it for a while, and my overall impression was this is not suddenly one of my favorite series now that I've come to it again, but I can more fully appreciate just how fucking good it is. We'll get into a lot of aspects of it, but I was just kind of blown away by like it's just a very consistently good series in a lot of different regards.
Yeah, I mean, I I don't really feel like there's much of a point in burying the lead. I think Full Metal Alchemist is considered, or at least if it's not by the wide majority, should be considered a modern classic. And in the way that a lot of people have like a lot of reference for whatever 2000s esque shonen battle manga they enjoyed, I feel like Full Metal Alchemist has like the widest range of people who enjoy it. Like I really have not met many people who say like, "Oh, Full Metal Alchemist, I don't care for that" or whatever. The closest I had was me. I didn't like this series all that much the first time I read. I thought it was good, but I remember really thinking the series like fumbled sort of towards the end and got like kind of sloppy. Um, and I was like the most negative opinion I've heard. But rereading it now, like, I mean, it is astounding how well constructed Full Metal Alchemist is. Like, it is not a perfect series, but I don't think we should gauge things entirely off the means of like the pursuit of perfection exclusively. Like, well, too many short jokes about Ed. I guess let's throw out all these babies if this bathwater's a little stinky. Um, but it really is just like such an iconic series with so many just astoundingly well executed scenes and characters and plot lines, and it is slow but never feels boring. It is, you know, meticulous with its character work. There is setup that takes months and months and years in some cases before you get payoffs, but none of it feels like excessively dragging. You could figure things out. Like if you've never read this series before, but you're one of those people who's like, I want to piece together the clues. Like it really, the manga does not at any point really like just pull something out of nowhere and you're like, well, how was I supposed to like, you could probably figure quite a few things out as you're going through. The cast is astounding, and almost everyone who I thought didn't get enough to do in like my like going back. I always am like, why do people like Mayhew's that much? He's in like 2 volumes, and then like reading it again, it's like, oh no, never mind. Mayhew's is in a shit ton, and he fucking rules. And I'm crying, Nick. I can't stop. Why did they do this to him? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the series that I feel like if you're a big fan of a shonen adventure type series, in some way, I think every big fan of those types of manga wishes that their series could, in some respects, be like Fullmetal Alchemist, in terms of having a wide cast of characters, all of which get something to do at some point, aren't just there for the sake of it. Like if a character's there for the sake of it, it's because they're, you know, in like 2 panels because there needs to be, you know, a group of people to interact with. You know, they're like a soldier or a face in a crowd or something. There is this, you know, girl at the military branch who is just kind of the nerdy librarian named Cheska, and she's like there to just kind of like be, you know, a bookworm who's got a photographic memory in a couple of spots, but you know, every time that like someone needs to go into the freaking library, like she comes up and, you know, she's kind of the person who's there. There's a group of these chimera guys. They're just big dudes who are just upset about the fact that they've been turned into monsters, and they're not just like beaten up once and then forgotten about. They say, oh well, we're gonna follow the good guys now because they kind of understand us, and they follow them for the entire rest of the series and are part of the final battle. Like they're not like the swinging factor in it, but they're there and they're helping. And then, like, in the epilogue, they get to do stuff too. Like, characters aren't just forgotten about, which is astonishing after all the shit that we've read.
It is such a weird thing that we're like, it remembers it as characters.
Yes.
we're praising it like real bare minimum energy, but like, I mean, it is just like so enjoyable to see a series that has like a load of side characters, but no one ever really feels unimportant. Like everyone feels significant in this story. It avoids having the female love interest who doesn't do anything, even though they never give her, fuck, all the fucking powers you can list off on Sakura, and she's like 1/15 as fucking interesting as Rinri, who just makes prosthetics. That's it. And she's a compelling and enriching character, as several small stories all to herself, and then her connection to the Elric brothers is like an integral piece of their chemistry and what works for them. And she's not forgotten. She's like a part of the series for like 7 straight volumes. And then eventually they are like, okay, she's going to exit the story, but she's never going to be forgotten. Like she is a main character in this too.
Winry is like an incredible example of, okay, here is a character who is in a battle series and she's got no combat abilities. So there are situations where she's not going to have anything to contribute to, the plot, and it doesn't make logical sense for her to be in a dangerous situation. So she goes somewhere where it's safe, and yet it doesn't feel like, oh, she's been forgotten about, or she just, we just got rid of her because we couldn't do anything with her. She has a set of skills that make her still valuable to the people around her and to the story, and that's just not forgotten about. And that's, I think, a big thing that is kind of the feeling of careful consideration to a lot of elements of the story is a character has a purpose to serve to the narrative, and if that purpose is no longer required, that doesn't mean that you have to forget about them. It means like, okay, well, like they'll come back later on when they can be, of use to the story, and other characters will, like have a bond with them of some regard, so that they'll like, want to talk with them, even if they're not serving a very specific function or something like that.
Yeah.
And she's got a great relationship with Alphonse, with Edward. And there's the whole like cycle of vengeance thing that, God, maybe we should step back a little bit.
It's tough not to talk about the entire thing. Yeah. If you have never heard of Fullmetal Alchemist before, and it's 2 anime, like 4 movies, a live action movie,
the law of equivalence exchange states that to obtain something of equal value. Okay. In Fullmetal Alchemist, alchemy exists. The quote-unquote science that allows you to transform some substance into another. There are a whole bunch of alchemists who are kind of like the superpowered people within this world that can cause all sorts of, insane things to happen, because they can literally just like, okay, I transform, a pile of rubble into a house, or I can use it to, to launch a hail of bullets at my enemy and stuff. They've got superpowers, essentially. But just because people can do all these insane things, that doesn't mean they can do anything. And a big thing is the fact that you can't transmute living matter. So our heroes, who are Edward and Alphonse. Ed is like their brothers. Ed is Al's older brother. When they were a bit younger, their mom died. They tried to use alchemy to bring her back from the dead, and insane shit happened, which caused basically God to say, you've been doing stuff that you shouldn't be, and I'm going to take something from you for messing with stuff you shouldn't have been. He stole Ed's leg and Al's entire body, And in order to desperately get his brother back, Ed gave up then his arm so that he could then put his brother's soul into a suit of armor. And so now Ed has an artificial arm and leg, which are these cybernetic things called automail. Winry's an automail mechanic, and so she was regularly doing maintenance for her childhood friend. And Al's a suit of armor, and he's just stuck that way.
Yes.
So the two of them are spending the plot to try to find a way to correct their mistake, to get Ed's limbs back, and much more importantly, to get Al's body back. Because there's a lot of downsides to just being a living suit of armor, which are dealt with, like, not in a heavy-handed way, but in a very real way. The realities of, like, he's not human, he can't sleep, he can't eat. It sucks, even if he gets to be a cool suit of armor who punches guys really hard. The two of them are setting out to do this. It turns out that the ability to potentially correct this mistake lies within this thing called the Philosopher's Stone, which they're journeying around trying to find out the secrets of while working for the state government. There's a huge plot from the people who control the source of the Philosopher's Stones that involves the entire world being in danger. And there's a billion really cool characters in it.
Yeah, now to volume 2. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a good summation of the plot. And I think it is going to be a challenge to not just kind of rave about various points throughout this series and the characters you love and the moments that really work. There are things I do want to point out that, like, upon rereading, I'm like, all right, I'm not a huge fan of this. And certain things that maybe didn't age super duper well. But generally speaking, I think if you have never read Fullmetal Alchemist and you truly don't know anything that's really going on about it, and maybe this is the more likely thing, if you haven't read it in a really, really long time, I would absolutely say to go read it. Like, go check it out. If it's, your second time or third time through or whatever, just, like, check it out with new eyes. This is really one of those series that, like, reads so well when you're just going through it, or you're just chugging through it, you're not stopping really or whatever. And I mean, you could sleep, I guess. You could do that sort of stuff. But, like, this series reads great just in, like, long stretches where you're just going through it. There's such a great sense of, like, cliffhanger and build up. I was buying the collected volumes, and the volumes themselves just really end at, like, the perfect moment most of the times. Also, if you haven't read the collected volumes, I recommend it just to get oh my gosh, what's her name? Arakawa?
I think it is Arakawa. Yeah,
Arakawa's little, like, addendums and notes and gags. Some very dark. Like, there's one that was so dark that I was like, holy shit, this is funny, but my god, this is bleak. Really cool stuff there. Great little notes. Like, for a while, just because this series has, like, a rotating cast of dying characters, there was an in memoriam at the end of every volume because characters just kept dying. And it's really, really interesting. That's, I guess, another thing to praise. Well, we talk about all the characters that really, stay around and keep themselves useful. There are characters that just, like, run their purpose and leave the story. Like, death is a very significant part of Fullmetal Alchemist. It is an integral part of these characters and the stories they're telling and lessons they're learning and just how they're living life. It is a violent world with quite a bit of tragedy to it. So, like, tragedy and loss and death is just this, ubiquitous feeling throughout the series, just because their mortality is real. And sometimes it's a little silly, like when Scar kills a big, dumb, stupid, idiot scientist or alchemist. You're like, who the fuck is this loser?
I am the super alchemist, and I'm going to defeat you. Oh, you've transmuted my leg. Oh, I'm in the water. I'm in the water. I'm in the water.
Oh, get out of this one. Oh, not getting out of this one.
Just a pool of blood flows to the top of the surface.
Yeah, it's so like you get stuff like that, but like really it is just like such a smooth ride. And this is the thing that like blew my mind. And I suppose I should say if you have never read it, I would probably stop here and read it because I think spoilers. I'm not intending to spoil things necessarily, but like I just know I'm going to. So
I
like
understand. Like how can you hold back from talking about all the good things,
yeah.
which inevitably encroach into spoiler territory?
But like in like even rereading it, I really thought and completely like missed how like the pacing of the series in my mind what like differed from the actual pacing. There's a character death. I won't say whose it is right now, but there's a character death that in my mind is like a late act 2 even into act 3 death. And then when that character dies in like volume 9, like the scene starts getting set up, I was like, oh, they must come back here later when this character dies. And I was like, this is starting to look a lot like the scene where this character dies. Oh my god, they die here. This is like really early on in the grand scheme of this story.
Yeah, yeah. So another one thing I guess want to talk about before we get into it is this series has so many different and cool female characters in it. I mean, we've already talked about Winry, but then there's, like a lot of people are, of course, like really big into like Big Sis Armstrong, Olivier, uh, uh, and there's Lanfan, who is, the ninja bodyguard. She's great, and then there's Riza, who, when I read this through this time, made me kind of realize, like, oh, this is probably why I have like a very deep appreciation for like cool, cold, composed, badass female characters. Is because I saw this lady when I was like 13. I was like, she's cool. I want more of her. And I think that is like, it's not just that there's a bunch of, like, oh, cool female characters, but it also just shows like they don't all have to be like the same kind of character. There are several that you could say fall into kind of the very broad definition of like, oh, they're a girl who like looks out for her man who's kind of her love interest kind of thing. But even beyond that, like, Izumi is this, older teacher type, and she's really cool, not even just like when she's beating stuff up, but also just like in the way that she talks about alchemy and how she has come to understand it after making some very horrible mistakes in her past. The way that she, is among like the most human characters in the series, because like she can get angry. She's a very good parental figure. I even like probably who should be the most incredibly annoying character in the series, May. I really like her. She's this little girl who kicks people hard. And she's got a little tiny pet panda, which is way cuter than it should be, I feel like.
Yeah, I love that side cast. Izumi in particular as a character really stands out. She is sort of the mentor character to Ed and Al. So she has this very distinct place in the series as like their teacher, their mentor, but also this very human like connection they have because she is somebody else who also committed what is considered a quote unquote like grave sin of alchemy, just like the Elric brothers have. So, there is a very tangible like sad humanity to her that you get to run a gamut of emotions through as like the story develops. There's definitely tears that are be shed. Also, she has like just a cool marriage with
It's really nice.
I don't even know her husband's name. He is just Izumi's husband in my mind. Sig. Sure. He's just Izumi's husband though in my mind because
Sig's husband and Armstrong's boyfriend.
Yeah, he never makes the cover, like the opening spread where they explain characters. Izumi makes it almost every single time after her introduction.
Right.
Sig never makes one. And it is very refreshing to have that be the way a marriage and a story is, where he's just like, I'm happy to support my wife.
Yeah, he's just this big, strong guy who loves his wife, and it's very much just kind of a silent, strong support for her. And which is also a nice offset for, again, like all the female characters that are kind of just there and supportive guys. But then around that time that Izumi gets introduced, it's like, oh no, here's all these other different like characters that we can have cool women be, and it's like I just really appreciate that we had this one big shonen series in the 2000s. It was like, no, here's all these great female characters. I think that this series is has an incredible combination of just like, you know, of a complex enough plot where, you know, there's this deep conspiracy that's going on. Like you said before, it doesn't like, you know, deliberately hide stuff just to spring it on you later. You can figure stuff out in some cases if you're paying attention, but there's enough of a convoluted plot to stuff that even when you feel like you know all of what's going on, there's still enough that hasn't been revealed. And the fact that the good guys haven't figured it out yet still creates great tension. There are some cool action scenes. There's some very effective horror in this story. You know, like the designs of some of the monstrous beings that come about, the very existential nature of the fact that there is just this very callous, godlike being that oversees everything, and part of it wants to destroy the world in order to rebel against God, basically. The fact that, you know, at certain points Al is like not sure if he's really Alphonse Elric, because all he is a mark on a suit, and like for a 15-year-old kid to be dealing with that, like, holy shit. And then, you know, there's a little girl who gets forcefully bonded with her dog by her crazy dad.
People make too big of a deal about that. The dogs, they're fine. Scar put them into a better place. They show up in the memoriam.
He took them to a farm.
Yep. Yeah, there's... I had a thought. I completely lost it at this point. No, it's gone. Carry on.
Okay. All right. And I do, to go on that point, actually, of talking about her, I do appreciate that, even though like that's really just kind of like the big gut punch that happens at the beginning of the series that takes us from, oh, here's like a weekly adventure that Ed and Alphonse are going on, where they show what cool and clever alchemists they are. You know, here's a bit where Ed fools a corrupt, you know, town sheriff, essentially, who's been exploiting the town, and he basically buys it from him for nothing in order to give it to the good mining folk. Here's a bit where he exposes a corrupt priest and stuff. Oh, look at these nice adventures they're having. And then they get to the one where they, you know, bond with this little girl who's very sweet and innocent, and her dad, in order to get some results for his research, decides to turn her into a chimera by bonding her with her own dog. And they're like, what the fuck did you do? And he says, we're the same, because you also created an abomination with alchemy. And Ed just has to kind of deal with the truth of that.
Yeah, there's just like a realization that he has to take. Of like, yeah, yes, I am. Fuck.
And that is something that just haunts them and follows them for the rest of the series. You know, it's not like that's, you know, a really super plot relevant thing that happens. It doesn't really play into the big conspiracy going on or all the stuff that they have to accomplish, but it keeps Ed and Al grounded for the rest of the story of like, there are lines that we can't ever cross again, and we've got to do our best to help people because of that little girl that we couldn't help when we had the opportunity to, and she needed us most. And it just kind of makes them, you know, keep an eye on themselves and influences them that way. And it's just really nice to have that awareness about a series, or about a series cast, I guess, specifically, to learn from their mistakes, and to keep those things with them, because it makes them feel like real people who are learning from the experiences that they go through in the manga. So it's great. Do we want to talk a little about a couple of spoiler things before we move on? Because there's a couple of things I do want to talk about that do fall into spoilers.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I think at this point, if you haven't, definitely go. And I should say this because this also was brought up in the chat. If you've only ever experienced what is considered the 2003 anime, and you haven't experienced Brotherhood or read the manga, this is also an opportunity for you to leave and go check those out. You are definitely getting a great story in the 2003 anime, but it is famously probably the most like divergent story, where they were just like, we're past the manga, we just got to make our own stuff up
for the entire second half of that series, basically.
Yeah, so like definitely, if you haven't, go check out Brotherhood, if that's what you want to consume it, or read the manga. Both are great ways to enjoy this story.
Yeah. All right. So, spoilers. The 7 deadly sins. The homunculi, I guess I should say. And they're forever making me think that like all villain groups should be so cool as to be named after the 7 deadly sins, basically.
Every one of them should be 7 deadly sins.
I have to say, because we've dealt with a lot of villain groups. We did a list of like the best villain groups for a bonus pod, didn't we?
And I believe the homunculi, 7 deadly sins, whatever you call them, showed up in both of our lists.
Yes, and I mean, like, well deserved for it, because it's nice to see like a very defined, limited numbers villain group show up in a show and series like this, and when they're done, they're just basically done. The only one who really cheats is Greed, but there's justification for that. But they also like get dealt with all throughout the entire story, and I love the pacing of that, where, you know, like Lust, as I think the one you were alluding to before.
Yeah, that death happened so much earlier in the series than I remember.
A third of the way through the series, after he hasn't really gotten to do much, honestly.
Yeah, it was one of the few where I was like, I wish we'd gotten a little bit more time, but like legitimately, I was like, yeah, I remember eventually, like, what's his name, Roy just keeps burning her and she dies, and I was like, oh, this is kind of like the room she dies in. Oh, and this is starting to look a lot like the scene where she dies, and they must like mirror it later. No, this is the scene. She's just dying right now. Okay. I did not remember where it was.
Which, by the way, I love the like extra ingenuity that's thrown into that scene to make that death extra satisfying, because she, you know, fights smart. She freaking cuts open a pipe so that Roy's like, I make a spark, and then it casts a giant fireball. Gloves get soaking wet, and then she takes them away from him so that he can't cast his giant fireballs anymore. So then he shows up after being mortally wounded, because he etched the sigil for the fire into the back of his hand with a needle, and then used Havoc's lighter to make the spark, and then seared his wounds shut so that he could go after her. And so with this like makeshift weaponry, he goes and he just burns her to death over and over again. It's awesome.
It is an extremely cool and satisfying scene, especially because she's so terrifying in that moment. Because to that point, she seemed pretty, you know, like rather convenienced by everything. Everything's just kind of like, oh, you silly little weird humans, like, get on, scruff you like the hair, like, get on out of here, stop investigating our evil labs, we need you for our purposes.
Pretty much.
And then eventually it's just like, all right, fine, you fucked around too much and you're about to find out. And then she starts just going hog wild, and like there are like real consequences to that fight as well. And like there's the terror that like that scene ends And then it like cuts to outside the room where King Bradley's like sheathing his sword, and he's like,
he could kill them all right there.
if he walks right into that room, every one of those characters is dead. Like, not even a chance.
Bradley is such a good final boss. He's
so cool.
He's so cool. he's such a bastard too.
You hate him, and you weirdly kind of like him too, because he is this weird oddity of a homunculi that, you know, normally these are things that do not age, sort of have like these omnipresent forms, but this is specifically one that does age and was a human. I mean, they were all kind of humans, but like this is like weird that he is like a human. He's getting older, and everyone's like, this is like crazy. So he has kind of like an interesting outlook on life where he kind of wants to lose. Like there's
in a way,
he doesn't want to lose, but he does seem very accepting of the idea that it will happen. That is very amusing. Like it's just interesting to see this thought process go through his mind. It's not like a major thing, but he'll have like conversations with people where it's just like, they're surprising us every day. And you're like, fuck face, our entire mission is riding on this. Stop laughing.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not here by choice. Like, you grew me to be this way, so I don't have to like it.
Yeah, he's so cool. And like the end of the series is what so if you're a real long time WMR fan, you would know that Weekly Manga Recap was a podcast, was a blog that I did, and in that I took a couple of recommendations. Fullmetal Alchemist was one of them. I talked about Fullmetal Alchemist, and my thought process at the time was, this is really cool, but it really stumbled towards the end, because eventually the bad guys just stop being intimidating. The good guys just like roll over them for like 3 straight volumes. Like they just, because the only people who are really left in the bad guys are fucking like political
there's
heads. Like,
and then there's like Pride and Sloth and Bradley, basically.
Yeah, like there's these guys that just don't matter, and like it's just everything's going very easy. Until King Bradley shows up and just single-handedly is like...
they've got a tank staring him down, and they fire at him, and he dodges it, and he cuts off the treads of the tank, and then when one of them's like, well, we can't drive the tank, where is he? He just stabs them through the little hatch.
He's so terrifying. I love him. I don't want to just talk about him nonstop, but...
It's like that joke about Haku, where like, if I've got a handgun and a tank and Haku is like a mile away, I've got him dead to rights, I'm jumping out of the tank and giving myself up, because if I miss him, I don't want him to be mad at me. He just beats a tank with a sword.
Yeah.
King Bradley doesn't have super offensive abilities like any of the other homunculi. He just has swords.
He's just gonna whoop your ass. And like, he has such a great introduction of hunting down greed, and we don't see much go, because like, we know as an audience that King Bradley is a homunculi far before the rest of the characters figure it out for like a while. And it's so amusing because you just have to keep seeing this happen, and nobody finds out for the longest time. You just see him like just manage to kind of like slink away, or he just manages to like kind of get out of there before someone would like be like, hey, wait, what are you a monster?
You're the president. What the fuck?
Yeah, like it's such a well executed thing, and he's terrifying, just so terrifying. He has a great moment where Al is trying to like protect someone inside of him and pass out, and he's just like, no, can't have this person survive stabs, and just stab straight through Al to kill this person he knows is inside of him. And that's actually the dark joke I mentioned earlier. There's like another one where that same premise is going on. Someone just puts a bunch of cats inside of Al, and then Al's just like, oh yeah, I remember everything, which you only find out happens when the blood of an innocent gets on his seal. So the joke is just that these cats murdered this woman. It's fucking bleak. But yeah, like really good stuff.
Oh man. So my point about the homunculi is I'm just impressed with the restraint to have a villain group introduced and just have them just be the main villains for the entire story. It's not like, oh, they're the villains for this arc or anything like that. It's nope, it's the homunculi and father whom they work in service of. And I guess that's like a potential for, a big advantage to a series that's just like one story, which is just everything is contained, everything at the beginning can be worked into the end and stuff. Obviously, like it's incredibly difficult to just like have like a story when you're writing it, week to week or month to month or what have you. But this was an impeccably well crafted story, and they're a great example of that. You're slowly finding out who each of these members of the seven are over time. Sometimes they're just dudes, like kind of like monstrous looking dudes like Sloth and Gluttony. And in other cases, it's like, oh, King Bradley, the freaking president Führer of the country, is a homunculus. And then who is the last one? Oh, it's his little son, who is potentially the most terrifying of all of them. I say potentially. He ends up being kind of a wuss.
That was also a fun thing for me because like going into it, there's a lot of things I remembered, but for the life of me, I was like, who the fuck is Pride in this series? Like I could not remember it. So I actually did kind of get to like have the surprise again of being like, oh shit, it's little Bradley.
Little Bradley.
One character who really increased in like my enjoyment of them is Ling, who is a character that is completely in this series. I don't think he shows up at all in the 2003.
He's not in 2003 at all.
So if you haven't seen 2003 or not 2003 Brotherhood or the full manga, you definitely should, because he is a very interesting character who is again in a lot more of the series than I thought he was. Like, I kind of felt like I was like, oh yeah, like he shows up and then gets kind of taken off screen, like get kind of like not written off, but like just kind of gets removed. And then I'm like, nah, man, he's basically like the third protagonist.
Kind of is.
Like he really is involved pretty closely in everything, and that's really cool. He is a character that is annoying, but in understandable way. And lives up to a lot of cool moments where you're just like, fuck, all right, you've earned my respect for managing to survive like a 2-on-1 fight against Bradley.
Yeah, I love the relationship that he forms after he's bonded with Greed, like that kind of much more like contained version of the inner hollow or the QB kind of thing. Growing to bond with your internal demon and such. I really like the relationship that he has with his bodyguards, how dedicated they are to him, but also which keeps on reminding him how much he needs to work for them and for his people. And no, I lost that. Never mind. Something else.
Yeah, I mean, I will say. So I do want to point out a couple of things that aren't that I didn't love as much. The biggest, and maybe the one I took away the most, this series really hangs its hat on Ed is short. TP, they get maybe the most mileage out of that joke than I have ever seen anyone try to get. Like if you do not find this hysterical, you gotta accept it. You just gotta push it down because it is nonstop throughout this series. Everyone comments on Ed's height. It's the constant joke in Omake chapters, and it is something Ed even has against himself, where you're just like, okay, I get it. He's short. Like this was just like a character trait that a lot of like 2000s anime boys could get. Like, you're short, and that would be like the gag against him. Man, Fullmetal Alchemist had so much more of it than I remembered.
I didn't mind the short jokes. What got kind of annoying to me after a little bit was that they kept on insisting that Ed was short because he didn't drink his milk. And it wasn't even so much that, it was that afterwards I would be like, I don't like milk. And it's like, all right, why don't you like milk? is it like a health thing? Some people can't drink milk. It's like, I don't like the taste of milk. All right, what kind of 2-year-old are you?
I thought it wasn't his reason. He was like, it's cow juice and that's gross.
All right.
Look, I'm not here to like. I'm just saying. I feel like I don't know. Anyway, they do make it like an actual plot point later on.
Yes.
So like, oh, you're short because you're essentially feeding Al's body in an in-between.
Right.
That's the whole thing. But it is a thing that the jokes themselves though are rather exhausting. So I didn't care for that. And there are some weird things that go on. There is an entire I shouldn't even say sub story. It is a major part of the story that there is the Ishvalans, who were essentially like a peaceful nation that were just forced into a civil war, and it was very violent, and it essentially became a giant genocide. And there's a lot of things that go on there. And despite the fact that that happens, there's not a lot of stories or narratives really from their perspective. We do get Scar, and then I forget his name. I want to say Ken, but I don't think that's that. There's somebody up north who is like
right.
And it's nice to get that, but there's a lot of times where it feels like those Miles. That's it. There's a lot of times where like characters might show up and then very quickly just be like, and here is our story. Goodbye. And you're just like, I would like a little bit more of their story in this, if that makes sense. Maybe would have liked a bit more of time spent kind of getting to see those characters so it didn't feel so quick in and out. Because Scar's story is really one of vengeance and then acceptance. So you do get a satisfying thing there, but it does feel like there maybe could have been more that we would have been able to enjoy.
All right. I've got, I think, 3 more things I want to bring up.
Okay.
Just one is, I loved Armstrong when I first read this series. I read this series again. I loved him all over again. He's just the best. It's not just that he is so funny, which he is. It's also that like he's so positive and so helpful and nice that he's never the one you're laughing like at like derisively. You know, maybe you're laughing at him because he's so ridiculous, but then he's like, yeah, but also he's really great and nice because he looks after his subordinates. He's very concerned about Ed and Alphonse and just wants to take care of them because he's like doting on them like a good uncle, but also in a like really annoying uncle way. Like when he sees them sparring and is like, then I'll spar with you too, and he rips his shirt off and goes to tackle them. I love that bit where he goes to like bodyguard them back to their home on the train, and he's like, "But it's cheaper to put Al in storage than to buy him a ticket." So they just stick him in a storage car, and then it turns out he put him in the livestock car. And he's like, "Oh, I thought it would be better than if we stuck him in storage because then he'd have company."
Yeah, he has friends now.
He's got friends now. Oh, like he's just the best. He's got his only flaw is that his heart is too big. Like canonically, his heart is too big because then he can't like, you know, make the decisions where you have to make the smart decision. He's too concerned with all of the people around him and stuff. He's so good.
Yeah.
And I love his relationship with Sig, where they just bond over both being beautifully muscular dudes, and that's it. I love how hard it was for Bradley to get taken down at the end. You know, we talked about like the tank thing earlier. Then there's, you know, the fight against Buccaneer and I forget the name of Lynn's older bodyguard. But that awesome moment where he realizes I can't beat Bradley, but I can kill him in a suicide attack. So he's, you know, lights a bunch of dynamite strapped to his chest, and Bradley just slices all the fuses off while striking a mortal blow through his chest. And then Buccaneer comes up behind the guy and stabs through him in order to stab Bradley. And they're like, even with your bullshit eye powers, you can't see this coming because his body is blocking it. And then he lives through that.
Yeah.
Scar has to beat him. It's great.
It is terrifying. But it's such a satisfying moment. Like, I really do have to overcome a lot.
I love the relationships between a lot of the people and how like strong they are through these very dire circumstances. There's this really powerful theme throughout the series of kids and adults, essentially. Ed and Al are being constantly told by the people around him, hey, look, you got to depend on us more. You're kids. You don't have to do everything. But the big difference between them is that Ed and Al have this streak of innocence to them and a streak of idealism to them, whereas, all the adults that are surrounding them have been soldiers in a war or have dealt with the consequences of being from like a war-ravaged country. And so they have, know of the realities and horrors of the world. And so they kind of just have to like get along with it and just do stuff while trying to detach emotion from it as much as they can. But you're still reminded constantly, like, no, these people do definitely have emotions. Hawkeye and Mustang have this relationship that is defined by like mutual respect and professionalism, despite the fact that like everyone kind of knows that there's more going on between them, not just in terms of like they're a very popular ship in the fandom, but also like all the characters are kind of aware of it, to the point that Hawkeye fakes out envy by suggesting that they're in a relationship, so even the two of them are aware of it. But they're always very, curt with each other, always kind of like reprimanding each other for like you let your emotions get the best of you. You can't do that. But then when things get really dire, like when Hawkeye thinks Mustang is dead, she, breaks down. She attacks someone in anger. She cries when she thinks that he's dead. So they do deeply care about each other. It's just that they know that they have a job to do, and so they have to put that aside. Whereas Ed and Al, it's like they operate on their emotions. Their emotions are leading them. And that's like kind of the difference between the two of them.
Yeah.
And I forgot my last point. Please say something while I try and remember it.
There's a scene that I really like that's really sweet, because there's a large part where Winry exists in a space where she doesn't really get told a lot, and she's kind of just bouncing around following after these guys. And there's a lot of concern in her because she's like, in her mind, she still thinks of these as like her childhood friends. And she still thinks of them specifically like Ed as kids. And then like a scene happens and she's like watching them walk away, and she's like, when did Ed's shoulders get so broad? And I was like, that one line was enough to be like more romantically satisfying than like most other like 99% of like shonen love interest storylines. I was like, that one scene was enough to like catapult ahead of all the crappy bad romances we've had to endure. I really like that.
It's a very nice understated sequence where she kind of understands like, oh, Ed's like not like a kid. He's kind of a hunk, but she doesn't say it like that. No. She says, like, she just kind of like has this quiet realization while she's riding the train, where like, I guess I've just been in love with him for a while. Yeah. And it like feels genuine, just like, oh no, they're these people who knew each other since they were kids. They've known each other their whole lives. So she just kind of didn't acknowledge the fact that she had fallen in love with Ed at some point. And because she wasn't mature enough to realize what the emotion she felt meant. And it's like, yeah, I'll buy that. Yeah. It's a series about growing up.
Yeah. Nick, we all don't realize our shoulders have gotten so broad.
My shoulders have never been broad, so I'm a scrawny bean. So the last thing I wanted to talk about. So without bringing up the context for it, there has been the suggestion that there is a religious message to this series. No, there isn't. So it's interesting because this series starts off in the very first chapter with Ed saying, because they have come to this town where there is this basically false prophet, but he was using a philosopher's stone to conduct quote unquote miracles so he can exploit the people. And Ed gives this speech to this girl there, and where he says that, like, there is no God. Everything that he's doing is just alchemy, it's just science. I don't believe in God, essentially. And God exists in this story. It's not, Christian God, the being refers to themselves as, oh, I'm the world, I'm the truth, humans call me God, kind of thing. This being that is larger than the universe, essentially. And so with that kind of setting, and with the idea that there are things that humans aren't meant to dabble in, there is a dark version of this being that is using the 7 deadly sins to try and take over everything. There's some definitely elements of like, oh, there's like Catholic references and everything here. So is this supposed to be a story about like, oh, you can't do everything with science, and our main characters need to learn that like there is a being that is beyond humans and stuff. But at the end of the story, Ed does not like acknowledge God as superior. He just kind of comes to terms with this being by kind of outsmarting them and, according to them, besting it. Whereas the most religious character in the story, Scar, when he kills Bradley, says there is no God in this world. So it's a very weird series where the idea is just that humans, regardless of whether you have faith in a higher being or not, we've got to kind of get along and on our own merits. And that means that if we treat each other badly, then that's on us as people. Because this series also deals a lot with man's evil towards man, even though there's all these monsters and stuff running around and manipulating people and stuff. The big evil plot is by a bunch of boring, old, money-grubbing asshole politicians who want to sacrifice the entire country so they can live forever. And that's why everything bad happens. It's the most boring villain ever could possibly be responsible, and they're responsible. That is something that I just wanted to bring up because it's something that kind of completely escaped me the first time that I read through this series. It was more just like, the what was happening was what resonated with me, as opposed to like the why of everything that happened. And that felt a lot more powerful to me, especially in terms of like, the racial inequality that's demonstrated in the series and isn't often honestly dealt with enough. Like you mentioned earlier with the Ishvalans not being as big a factor as they could be.
Yeah. I wish I could add more. I wish I could like continue this conversation for a while. We could just go by like kind of like section by section, arc by arc, because there's so much I would love to talk about. We haven't really talked about like Barry the Chopper or
he's 200. He's a monster, but he's so funny.
And like there's so many side characters I'd like to talk about. We didn't really get to talk about the original Greed. We didn't really get to talk about like Gluttony, or Envy, but like legitimately, we're gonna have to rush through a lot of series in this recap as it is. So, in summation, you should definitely be reading Fullmetal Alchemist if you haven't. Like you should just 100% absolutely. If you haven't read it in a while, take this as your cue, your opportunity to reread it, enjoy it all over again. You can know everything that happens in this series and still enjoy it. Like I was able to, as I said, like a lot of stuff I was able to be like, okay, I remember this happening. And every single time you're like, fuck, this is really satisfying. Like the moment of Bradley at Hughes's funeral and he's like barely holding himself together and you're like, oh, and then you find out the reason why is he's like, this fucking kid won't shut up and he's barely containing his rage is such a satisfying reveal. They're like, you cried at Hughes's funeral. He's like, oh, the fucking kid. So yeah,
to say nothing of all the very sad stuff that happened prior to that. Oh god, yeah, it's a good fucking manga. I think, like I said, it's not suddenly my favorite series now, but I have a newfound appreciation for how incredibly good its quality is. And if you have any bone in your body that likes general, like shonen action stuff that you've seen anything of in the last 25 years, give this a shot. You'll probably find something you like about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
All right, let's just really quick.
Let's begin.
Let's just real quick blast through 12 chapters. Uh-oh.
Yep. Here we go. My Hero Academia, number 381. Dark. The Shiketsu High people have shown up. Shishikura, squinty eyes, fingers dude, is very insistent that we know my dad was a prison guard at one of the prisons. And I'm just like, oh, I like you less now. So a bunch of people are, trying to, make a difference in the battlefield. They make know the fact that, oh yeah, Toga's, very much still a big dangerous factor. They have to, of course, deal with the original body of All for One as well. And All for One's right, like, okay, well, the only way I can steal a quirk is by touching the body, so I'm gonna get overwhelmed by all these ranged attackers right now. Gotta deal with them. Okay, Zorch, and he Zorches a bunch of people with this huge combination quirk attack. We see, a number of like C tier characters going ah, and they're like, keep throwing stuff at him, shoot stuff at him, attack him, and everything. And All for One honestly becomes like a way more endearing character for a little bit, because instead of being like, I've got everything under control, he's just like, fuck all you guys, I'm so powerful, you're all children. It's like, yeah, I'm much more into a character who's just like, I've got all these quirks and I'm super powerful, fuck you guys, than like, my multiple machinations, one of them is sure to come to fruition and I'm in control of everything. It's like, so bored of that. And he talks about how, in honestly nicely poetic language about how like you all grew up in the eras of heroes when heroes were getting big, and the younger ones have grown up never knowing the dark ages when I was the ruler, my golden dark age, and I'm going to remind the entire world of all this stuff. Yoarashi says some stuff in response to it, but honestly, like, he's not the important character in this chapter, so okay. Like, he doesn't do anything after saying this, so he says a thing that sounds kind of nice and defiant.
Yeah.
More big attacks go off. Yoarashi is summoning like this vortex around All for One to try and contain him, and other people are trying to insert attacks inside the vortex, I guess. And All for One says, like, look, any of you who want to try and get close enough to finish me off, you don't dare to do so, because you know that I'll just steal your quirk if you try and do it. So come and meet your fate. And then a big darkness with eyes appears behind him.
Nick, what hero is showing up this time?
It's fucking Tokoyami.
Oh, someone who's already here. Never mind. Not interested.
Oh no, who cares? He was already here. Come on.
It's got to be someone new, or I don't care.
And Tokoyami just says, darkness comes in a range of shades, so you don't get to speak of the dark. And there's a flashback to baby Tokoyami with baby Dark Shadow keeping him company in bed.
Does darkness really come in a form of shades? I feel like, isn't that not what darkness is? All right, yeah, carry on.
So basically, because All for One was a dick and made it rain really hard, and so it got all cloudy, Dark Shadow has fed off of that and gotten super, super powerful. And Tokoyami says, this is why I was chosen to support Hawks and Endeavor. I mean, I just thought it was because you were Hawk's sidekick, whatever. He releases his Dark Shadow to quote-unquote total release, and he gets a tailwind boost from Hawks and Yoarashi as well. So like Yoarashi is blasting wind towards them, and Hawks kind of just has his hand on Tokoyami's back to drive him forward. And a massive fucking Dark Shadow punches the shit out of All for One with an attack called Light of Balder, which I'm all about. Hell yeah.
Is this like a chapter?
Name your attacks after demons. Hell yes. Just a giant shadow bird punches off for one. It's great.
I wish every chapter just had a new character show up to punch all for one in the face, and like it just gets progressively less like dramatic who it is. It's just like character. I guess it's eventually like a line of characters being like, "It's my turn to punch the old man now."
Lucky comes over from PPPPPP to slap him.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
He's got a good right hand on him. Yeah, this is a fun chapter. I'm not going crazy for it like everybody else, but I'm glad Tokoyami was not forgotten.
Yes, I think that's the main thing. I'm glad I got to do something in all of this. So, hooray.
Nick, let's talk about Undead Unluck, number 148, Third Dog. And I'm going to move through this one relatively quickly because...
It's such a weird title.
We can condense this. Hey, our heroes are here. They're going to protect everything now. We see the different ways it's happening. You know, Fuko is using her unluck sniper bullets and getting these tanks destroyed. We see Yusei show up and use her undraw to basically smash a bunch of tank things together. It's like, oh, she has an unbreakable katana now. She's very, very strong. Nico gets to kind of be like the human person there who's like, you did a lot of this really easily. This is crazy. We do get a glimpse that shows that Billy is kind of aware that this is happening, but he is not trustful of these people. He's like, this is a third group coming in and all this, so I have to protect them. A third dog can, you know, carry the bone away when two dogs fight.
Such a weird.
Well, Nick, it is not going to be the weirdest line written in this chapter.
No, I guess not. Before we move on, I just want to note that Gina is about to have dropped the hottest album of 2023 in this giant group shot.
Absolutely, she is poised for something great. Fuko turns everybody's attention. She's like, "Hey, we need to start focusing because the undecreased tragedy is about to happen, and we need to prepare ourselves for how to counter it." Creed shows up. He literally rides up on a motorcycle, drops his grenades. Fuko's like, keep him from pulling those pins out with the undraw, but he's already done it. He already knows something's kind of happening. You know, he lands, he has his like a minigun with him, and he's like, get out of here, boys. I'll cover for you. I don't know why it sounds like that. But we get like a flashback.
I know, with a name like Creed Deckard, I could buy him something like that.
Yeah. We get a little flashback to show he was, you know, when he was being recruited by bad military people, ? They just don't care, Nick. None of them care about the boys on the field. So they're like, hey, look, you know, we're gonna supply you with ammunitions and
this is so
all this sort of stuff. But look, you're here for us. We need this weapon. So you guys cannot leave until you finish your objective. Eliminate 100 troops and fight until you've expended all of your ammo. And Creed is like firing his minigun. He's just trying to hold them off. And he's like, oh, what's going on? They have some invisible barrier. Well, whatever. I'll fire off every shot. And then my men and the like Navy or whatever military person's like, I believe we had a deal. You couldn't leave until you fired off every single round. And you have plenty of ammo left, don't you? And undecrease has activated, so...
This is so dumb. This is so stupid.
He's like,
This is the worst.
He's just like, what? I can't stop firing. Just take my men with you. They're like, nope, we had a deal. Not until you finished all of your ammo. And Creed says the line, rat bastards, a life that's been fully decreased can't be replenished. He screams into the air as undecrease activates. But hey, they're like, all right, it's time. Boom, Mr. Shin shows up, drops 2 unbreakable shields, and they're like, don't worry, it's fine. Like, if you won't ever run out of bullets because we have an unbreakable wall. And that's how the chapter ends. It's fucking wild. I have heard so many people are like, this is so dumb. This is so stupid. What a dumb backstory. They are right. I love it. Yoshifumi Tezuka has clearly been writing things like backwards. you know, since this series has kind of gained momentum and there's a lot of things that like retroactively have been established, it has to now be like, I have to do something with this. We talked
It's
about
got to be
like
a tragedy for everyone. Yeah.
and like at some point he was like, how the fuck do I make
How
a
do
tragedy?
how do I make a tragedy
How
if
the
someone whose
fuck?
ammo doesn't run out?
Like made the power before they thought of the backstory and is now like, I have to fucking make a compelling. And you know what? Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is the you know, the next great piece of literature. But I kind of love how dumb and hokey it is, where it's just like, oh, they won't take my boys back home unless I fire every bullet, but I can't. Don't you understand? A life that's been fully decreased will never come back. And you're like, what human would talk like this? Even if you knew that you were undecreased, that's not a phrase.
Which he doesn't know, right? Oh my god. Just imagine some of the other tragedies that we've seen, and if they instead had the nature that we have here of someone like telling them beforehand, now Top, if you try and stop, but you keep running, I'll kill all your friends.
Yeah.
Just like the very specific thing of the bad side of their. Now,
It's
Andy, if you try and die but don't, then I'll kill everyone you love.
It's great because like we just went from last week where we got like a compelling sad backstory with Tella where you're like, oh, I feel for this person, like I see their tragedy, I understand it, excellent. And then this week where you're just like, okay, I'll go along with it. Like, fair enough. You had to do a tragedy for all of them, and I'll admit, Undecreased was going to be one of the harder ones.
All right, I think that the professor is telling us that our time for the series is up. So
Professor Peanuts gives it 5 paws out of 5. That's him high fiving the camera. He wants down. Now.
Okay, awesome. Akane-banashi, story 51, Goldfish. So this is a story about, oh, who could it possibly be? It's a blonde guy. How many of those have we met so far? it's Kaisei. That's his name, right? Kaisei.
I don't know why you're asking me.
It's Akane's rifle dude.
Yeah.
So I believe his name's Kaisei.
Dwarven Schmebel.
So we get a little bit of him in like his home at the start of this. He's got a goldfish in a bowl. Why? Well, transition flashback. Someone at a bar that his mom works at orders a goldfish, which is a type of cocktail. So who should the person be that's ordering the cocktail? Why, it's Isho Arakawa, whom Kaisei finds to be kind of annoying because he like never pays his tab. He's always just kind of like he always leaves without paying. And so he says to his mom, like, hey, he never pays. Why do you keep on serving him here? And she says, oh, well, he'll pay me eventually. Everything will work out. And she's, kind of like absent-minded. She underplays everything, even though he's really worried about stuff. And she's like, it'll be fine. Everything will be fine. And he, just thinks to himself, she's always that way. No matter what the situation is, if it's something as minor as like, oh, I skinned my knee, she'll be like, it's fine. Everything's fine. Or when she's really hungover, it's fine. Or when my dad stopped paying child support, when she had to take over the bar, when people make rude, horrible comments about how, the life that she has to live, where she's looking after me and she works the nightlife stuff, she just shakes it up and says, it's fine. And her explanation to him is just like, hey, look, bad things happen, good things happen too. And there's a saying, fortune and twine. She doesn't know the expression.
It's me, thank God.
Yeah, so, and her son has to say, it's like, fortune and misfortune are intertwined. That's it. It gets to a point even when, like, she's bedridden. Her health fails her because she's been pushing herself so hard. She's got some sort of illness, and she's like, I'll be okay. It's not untreatable. I was just kind of working too hard. Don't be so sad. It'll be fine. And so Kaisei like tried to call up his dad, who didn't even answer the phone, or the number that he had is inactive, didn't bother to help out. They've still got bills to pay, so he tried to, find a way to make money, but he was still a kid. So, what was he gonna do? And so he just felt completely helpless because he couldn't even, not only could he not help her financially with her problem, but he couldn't even learn from her example. He couldn't tell her when she, needed some reassurance that everything's going to be okay. And so right when he felt like he was at his breaking point, suddenly Isho comes in and he just says, "There you are. Here, I'm here to pay my tab," and just dumps a paper bag full of money in front of them. And he just says, "I don't really know, how much I owe you, but that should cover it." And of course, it's like enough to cover her medical expenses, whole cloth. And she says, "Why are you giving me so much?" And Isho says, "Well, don't get the wrong idea. That's not for you. It's for the goldfish that you served at the bar. I need you around so I can have my favorite drink." So, but, even though this is a kind of callous way of going about it, he did, in a way, kind of save her freaking life. So she's thankful for it. And he says, like, "Yeah, you look much better now. You should be fine now." And then when he went to leave, guys, they followed after him and said, "Hey, how did you make all that money?" And Isho just says, "I just sit on a cushion and talk. That's it." Just very undercutting all the art of what he does. And he says, like, "Yeah, you can make good money doing that when you're a Rakugoka." And so that was a big reason why he decided to do that, was so that he could no longer be weak and powerless, so that he could have a way to support the people that he cared about by doing something of value. Which he refers to as a weapon that he gained. And imagine it as a freaking hatchet, but however you want to imagine.
Yeah, he's got it. He's got it.
Yeah. So yeah, he is back in the present, and we see that Akane has just finished up a performance. But she realizes, like, after her performance, like, oh man, there's a lot of people still trickling in. They're just flooding into it. And then her eyes catch Kaisei, and she says, "Oh, well, why? Right? Like, why are you here?" And she says, "Oh, that's a pretty cold reception, especially for someone who's come bearing fascinating news for you." Ooh, intrigue.
This is an interesting chapter. I'm curious to find out really like what the context of this backstory is in relation to his sort of approach to Rakugo. Because it does make you understand why he would feel like interested in a show as a person, because he's like, this guy just like saved my mom's life, and he somehow does it just by sitting on a thing talking. But it does feel like I'm waiting for like the thing that like connects the dot as to like how that informs the way he tells his stories and everything like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm very curious to see that. But this is like a neat little story, and it makes sense. We can't immediately move into whatever his name is, Rokuga, whatever the basically Akane's peer, who's like at the top of the game. Like, we need to kind of settle some stuff with this rival before we can move into that.
Yeah. I also like how Isho Arakawa, despite the fact that, he very charitably saves a woman's life, he's just kind of an asshole. So. All right. Blue Box, Chapter 90. They're one and the same. Taiki and Matsuoka are doing their shuttle runs to try and compete for the ticket. Looks like Taiki is more tired than Matsuoka is. And he says, "Hey, why don't we raise the stakes? If you lose this contest, how about you give up on Natsu?" And Taiki looks at him in shock for a second, and then he makes his turn. He's like, "I'm not going to agree to that." It's like, good for you, dude. You made the decision to okay, I'll go for a ticket against this guy. I'm not just going to give up on a girl I like because of some stupid contest. And Matsuoka, still says yeah, it'll still be embarrassing for you if you lose to me here, though. Meanwhile, Jinatsu is talking with Yumika, and she, is continuing on from how she has just learned that Yumika, started going to a different school when her parents got divorced. And she says, like, you never tell me anything. And then she realizes, however, like, wait a minute, so you work at this dental place. So that means that Taiki already knew you worked here. So she asks, like, okay, so did you change schools because what happened with your parents? And she says, no, it didn't have anything to do with it. But Shinatsu still sticks on it and says, like, look, I wish you'd talk to me about this. I mean, like, I can't force you to talk to me about things just because we're friends. You know, I don't know how you feel. It's your life. So what can I do? And Yumika starts to get frustrated over this as Janet's like, look, okay, I'm sorry for distracting, and starts to leave. But Yumika is like, well, how the hell could I tell you about this? Like, I couldn't just reveal my shortcomings to you. I was your hero. Like, I understand that we were friends and we had good times, but you saw me first and foremost as your teammate who's good at basketball. You admired me and relied on me. And at first, that made me happy. But then as time went on, my passion for basketball died down. Jinasu accuses her of lying, but then she says, look, I'm not actually that impressive. I was always thinking about skipping practice. And when I realized that talent didn't mean anything, I just wanted to get out of there. I wanted to escape basketball. You were actually my hero because you never felt like ditching practice. And you were so dedicated to what you were supposed to do. And I was ashamed of myself because I wasn't. And I grew to hate you. And how was I supposed to tell you that? Then she brings up...
Brutal line.
Yeah. Then she brings up, like, I saw you the day after our final game in junior high, how you were practicing all by yourself. And at the time, I wasn't playing all that well. I kind of felt liberated that it was just over, but you kept on going. And Shinatsu thinks back to when Taiki, talked to her about that moment. And when he saw her and he says, like, I just thought of how hard you must have worked only to feel that crushed. And Yumika's like, and that's why I was shocked that you were, alone with a boy. I felt so defeated back then. And I didn't think you were the kind of person who would pay attention to other things besides basketball because you were so absorbed in your practice. That's who you are. And Shinatsu says, you're wrong. He's not some other thing. To me, they're one and the same. After you quit, the goal I'd been chasing, the person I could depend on most, vanished, and I felt alone. Dominating the nation is a far-off dream, and I felt unsure about whether all that practice was worth it. And when I'm feeling discouraged, he makes me feel empowered. Because I have someone like him, I can keep trying my best. Aww! I mean, this is, like, you can tell, like, as in this final picture, which is beautiful, it's just Chinatsu, like, being really emotional while she makes this declaration about her relationship and very true feelings for Taiki, which aren't necessarily romantic, but just, confessing that someone is that important to you has got to be, an incredibly emotional thing to do. She's, flustered. She's got tears at the brims of her eyes. And it's just a really cool, powerful moment. I love it.
Yeah. Makes you wish you were, like, a teenager again. Like, that's definitely, like, there's a youth there.
I can't hear you for some reason.
Oh?
Hang on.
Do I need to... Did I
Hello?
bump something? Yeah,
Why can't I hear you?
I can hear you. Can I... Hello?
I may have to drop out of the call for a second. Hang on.
Well, in the interim, yeah, I was gonna say everybody else. Okay, in the interim, of course, it's fucking one image that cuts over. Good chapter, fun stuff. Can you hear me?
Yep, I just needed to drop out and come back in.
There we go. That's how science works sometimes.
Yep.
Good stuff from Blue Box. Very, very good.
Stuff. All right, Quinn.
Yes, yes, yes.
More.
I love this chapter.
Chapter 13, To Hide the Solution in a Smile.
Great chapter title already. Off to a great start.
Not nearly insane enough for Cipher Academy. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, so it's Iroha's first time being the questioner in a code battle, and he put the code in a musical staff, and we actually open this chapter with him playing it on the piano. Iroha, a boy of multiple hidden talents.
I was going to say, he's a dancer, he's a piano player.
Mm-hmm. So he has just played for Nohime, with the stakes being that if he wins, then the punishment game for Toshusai is null and void. But if he loses, then he has to change his catchphrase. Le gasp! So Nohime is, applauds at the end of his playing, and she's like, all right, when did you notice I was going blind? And it's just like, oh, this is like the third page of this.
Okay.
Excuse me. There's a few people who are shocked by this, and she says, like, look, it's not like a super widely known thing, but it's not like something I keep a secret. So when did you figure that out? And Iroha says, it was when I was in the classroom before. I was literally standing right in front of you, and you weren't really sure who I was. Which makes sense, considering, Iroha's the only boy in his class, so he's kind of got a reputation at this point in his class, in the school. So it is kind of weird that she wouldn't recognize him if he's standing literally right in front of her desk. So he thinks I thought for a second maybe it meant that you didn't know my name, but you did the seeding tetronomy successfully, so you have to know my name. So the only thing I can figure is that you couldn't see me. And Nohime says, as she opens her eyes for the first time and reveals artificial eyes. In the past, I looked directly at a dazzling code. And that said, thanks to a certain inventor's glasses weapon, it's not like I've completely lost my sight.
It's the idea that she was like, I looked upon a crossword puzzle so fucking wild, I stopped being able to see. It's just a line she throws out there. She was like, I was looking at a Sudoku puzzle, and I was like, oh, my eyes, they're gone. I can't see anymore. And she just drops that line as casually as though it were anything else about her. And I love this chapter so much.
Also, Kagome made me artificial eyes, apparently.
There's gotta be different ways to do eyes.
Or contacts. Maybe they're contacts. Sorry.
Contacts,
yeah. But she asked Iroha, why'd you do a music-based code, considering that, you were so angry about the way I treated others. And Iroha just says, look, even if I was trampled on by someone, I would never be willing to step onto the wrong path. And Nohime, smiles. Her nose disappears when she smiles.
Yeah, it is a terrifying visual, but it's weird because I think the implication we're supposed to get is that it's not it's evil, but not I don't know. I don't know how to read it based off the way the chapter goes.
I mean, everyone around her is me oh, she just smiled weird. And she goes, oh, sorry for smiling weird. That's not very proper of me. So it's a bit of a weird thing. Yeah. So she does some immediate musical reference dropping, and she says oh, you were talking about this was going to be a revolution of the masses, but you've actually separated your emotion from your reason. So I feel like I've misjudged you. So I will not misread your code. Ready to change your catchphrase? For the musical performance, converted to sheet music, each measure has 4 beats, and Toshusai, for some reason, gets a 2-page spread as she just shows up and says, that's enough.
Nick, not only does Toshusai shows up, she is now wearing an extra jacket layer over top. She has taken another step forward into just being Kaiba.
I, Kyura Toshusai, am taking over this code battle.
It's so fucking cool. I don't know why. It's so stupid. I loved every second of it.
Just like Yugi took over the duel against my stepbrother Noah in the virtual world, I'll be taking over this code battle.
This is my fight now, Yugi.
there's some like, peanut gallery reactions over Toshizai's sudden appearance. She says, "How's it going, Hazaka-kun? Not very well, I imagine. I hear a gentleman got angry over a poor girl whose dignity was compromised." She's so pissed off.
She is furious.
How fucking dare you, white knight, for me?
Yes.
But Iroha's like, "I'm just angry because my friend was made a fool of. It's not like it has nothing to do with, you being a lady or anything." And Toshizai says, "A friend? Well, thank you. That's very nice."
I love the page turn. "A friend? Thank you for finally accepting my friendship."
She puts her hand on his head like, "Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me." Oh, that's a turn. She turns to Nohime, arms crossed with the jacket slung over her shoulders, and she immediately is taking the declaration of friendship in stride, saying, "My friend jumped the gun. Sorry about that." But Nohime says, like, "Look, it's okay. I mean, look, the real problem is that you've kept on doing this punishment game thing for a contest I beat you in when we were in kindergarten."
She's so fucking metal to her fucking promises. She's like, "I lost a contest in kindergarten, so 11 years later, I still gotta say 10 butt-related things a day."
Yep, and she works on it right away. It's like, "I guess I've been too much of a tight ass."
Oh my god. I fucking hate her and I love her in that moment where you just want her to be like, "All right, calm down, okay? Take it easy."
So yeah, Iroha gets the explanation of like, "Look, they were childhood friends, and I don't know what Taiyu told you, but the rear end punishment thing, it was just a little game between kids doing a wager." So Iroha's like, "I'm so sorry. I acted on information very rashly and rushed to conclusions. So look, if you want me to change my catchphrase, then I'll do it." And no, he says like, "Look, it's fine. Look, to avoid factional infighting, I led you into a code battle between individuals. A noble could never seriously impose that kind of penalty." And Toshizai's like, "Oh, really? Is this really a revelation?" Wait, you mean I don't have to keep on doing this? The explanation of the code is that if you separate out the notes of the song into like columns of 2, then they become Morse code. Okay,
sure. We get to our favorite part of the Cipher Academy chapter where you're just like, "All right, sure."
Which translates to, "You apologize to Kyora for us." And she says like, "Oh, I'm very happy that you decided to, make the substitution of ass to us the much less crass word." And Iroha's like, "Oh, that was just a mistake."
But it felt very fitting for this punishment.
And she says, "But the thing that really impressed me, Iroha, is the spirit of chivalry, composing a code in music and braille. It could be conceived as a slap to the face for you to try to win against me under fair conditions, though. I've taken a liking to you," Iroha Hozaka cups his head like a fortune ball, like a crystal ball, and says, "Our family will invest 100 million more in you." What does this mean?
What do you mean?
Apparently this is the highest amount I've ever heard of, except for Horogatoge Kagoe. So everyone's like, "Oh my god, doesn't it feel like it's getting closer to reality? Iroha Hosaka's dream to end all wars in the world, because now he has a patron and a backer in Toshizai, and an alliance with the girls that he worked with, and the latest weapons, and he could acquire rank and position in this private sergeant thing. So it could happen. I don't want to jump to conclusions, guys. Pretty sure PPPPP is gonna, be like our second of like 3 series ending in this cycle, I think. And I don't think Cipher Academy is going to be another one. but watch out for it in the next one.
I have no idea where this necessarily goes, because if it doesn't get canceled in this one, it's not going to get canceled for a couple months after that. So we really had to spin our wheels for a while if this was meant to be like an end game moment or something like that. It's just it. I guess let's finish the chapter.
Yeah. Kagome has a conversation privately with the teacher of Hiroha's class, whom she calls Shibori-chan, which means that, Kagome is evil. She's like, she doesn't have respect for anyone. And she is actually like designing a lot of the teaching materials for the class. And the next part of the private selection test is War Game Murder Mystery, Murder at Cipher Academy.
I like that there's a little note at the top. Title, Murder at Cipher Academy.
That's what it says in Japanese, yes. This is a dumb, fun chapter. That's
so over the top. Again, just the casual nature that Nohime just drops. I'm blind because I looked at a code so dazzling it damaged my eyes. I am not going to go out and say something as presumptuous as I did before, where I'm like, I can't understand how anyone went like this. But you have to understand, this is exactly my level of so dumb it's good. Like, shonen over-the-top ridiculousness. Toshusai, who walks into every scene like her dog just fucking died and she knows you did it. But, like, doesn't always match that energy with her words. like so frequently will walk into a scene like, I'm fucking furious. Thanks for being my friend. Crossing her arms. The 2-page spread that she gets of her coming in.
That's far enough.
Again, the Kaiba coat really just adds such a layer to it. Like, I want her to be, she's so extra, and I'm here for every moment of it.
If Cipher Academy gets canceled early, can we just like migrate Toshusai into some other series for her to just be super over the top?
Keep her butt gimmick for some reason, where she just has to say like, I'm a tight ass, like they're a pain in my ass, someone's gonna stick up their butt.
All right, let's dash through Ginka and Luna, chapter 23. Ginka versus Nosferatu. Nosferatu, and seeing the bell being rung and warning to get people to go away, casts blades of wind at it and knocks the tower over with the kid still inside it. Luna catches him. He's safe. A bunch of people start floating up in the air as a result of Nosferatu's power, and he's like, give me your freaking magical energy. Also, he can talk while playing the flute at the same time. He's very talented. Ginka starts fighting him. He starts just kind of recapping and reiterating his villain backstory and stuff, while occasionally Ginka makes comments like, I'm not your psychoanalyst. Stop it. This is all weird villain crap. He has sound magic, which, causes powerful vibrations and stuff. There's some cool effects where as it's blasting Ginka, the snow on his body is kind of bubbling from the vibrations. So that's kind of neat. Nosferatu drops on the kid. They're like, oh, you're the son of that guy who was really annoying me, asking me to take you on as my apprentice and stuff. By the way, your dad's dead now. Reiterates that. So Ginka is still there, and Lutena's like, hey, let me help. And Ginka's like, no, protect the civilians. And she's like, okay, then here. I don't know where she was carrying this around, but she throws a bound-up thing towards Ginka, and it's his staff. Oh, whoa, wow! I guess we're done. So Ginka has his staff now. He starts casting magic, and then he turns it into a hammer that is also a treasure chest with chains coming out of it, and also diamonds. And Nosferatu's like, "What the fuck is that thing?" And Ginka swings the hammer and blasts straight through the evil thing that Nosferatu had summoned, and also smashes Nosferatu in the face. And he's like, I've never felt so alive, but I can't let this end yet. And the thing that he's got dangling from his wrist falls off and it starts to crack open. But,
yep.
The series is going to be over, in 1 week or two.
Well, we know nothing's ending next week. But week after that, still real potential. We shall see.
We'll see. Quinn,
Nick,
for the final time. I've got a puzzle for you.
Okay.
I mean, I'll probably give you a puzzle at some point in the future, like, but anyway.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm gonna really zero in on this.
Okay, here we go. Puppet
Funakai.
How'd you know?
No, carry on. What?
How'd you know?
What does Funakai?
Yeah.
I just said Funakai very quickly.
I'll give you the whole clue.
Oh, wait, I got it?
Puppet for Pritchard's humor becomes Periwinkle Proprietary's primary pressman.
I was just like, I don't know, gotta get Funakai in there somewhere, right? Funaki, I can't even remember his actual name.
It's Funaki.
In my mind. Oh my gosh. Funaki was a great guess. I say it one more time because that was an excellent one.
The puppet for Pritchard's humor becomes Periwinkle Proprietary's primary pressman.
Periwinkle Proprietary's pressman. So that was the blue SmackDown #1 announcer.
SmackDown #1 announcer Funaki, which is a fantastic gimmick.
Fantastic. I have a wrestler for you, Nick.
Okay.
This may be the last time ever.
Maybe.
So 7 free pizzas on the line.
No.
Just 1 minute, Nick. Can you guess the wrestler? Are you ready?
Yes.
Go.
Is it Funaki?
It is not.
All right. Are they an active wrestler?
Not really.
Okay. Are they like a part-timer currently?
No, not.
No. Okay.
They might still wrestle.
No.
But
Okay. Did they last wrestle predominantly in WWE?
Yes.
Okay. Was that within the last 10 years?
Yes.
Okay. Were they a world champion in WWE?
No.
Is this a male?
Yes.
Okay. Did they ever win a tag team championship?
No.
Okay. Did they ever win any championships in WWE?
Yes.
Okay. Intercontinental?
No.
No. US?
No.
Hardcore. Oh boy. Okay. Were they part of a big stable?
Not really. No.
Not really. Okay. All right. Not really.
I'll give the clue in. When I say not really, they're part of a notable tag team, but the tag team never won the world championship or the tag team championships.
Okay. No, he wrestles, so it can't be them. I was about to say the name of a person that I really don't like, but it can't be them.
No, I don't
it
think
can't be them.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the last one, and I know we don't have a whole lot of time before we have to get through like 5 series and 4 of them are doubled up. So
It's all good.
Is it? No, they won. They won them. The tag team championship. Oh, this is so hard, Quinn. I was just like, God, I'm running out of.
Would it help if I told you the championship they did win?
Yeah, that would.
The WWE 24/7 championship.
Okay, that does actually help a little bit.
There you go.
Wait, is it Tucker?
It's Tucker again.
Why would you do Tucker again?
Because it's a full circle. We may not do it again. Let's go back to the most iconic. Nick, don't forget about Tucker. I'm telling you, even when I've done him, keep him in your mind.
Well, you couldn't fool me twice. I'm glad that after a little bit of that, I was like, wait, did you do Tucker again?
My worry is that you were going to guess something different, and I was going to be like, I'm sorry, Nick, it's just Tucker again.
It's just Tucker again. People I almost guessed but didn't were Enzo Amore and Titus O'Neil. It was like, no way, Titus did win the tag team championships for some reason.
They eventually got them. You couldn't keep the primetime players down for that long.
It unfortunately happened right when the New Day were getting big, and it was like, why are they the champions right now? Okay, guys, it's the last chapter of PPPPPP. We were talking about this last week, like, holy shit, what direction is this going to go in? Are we going to wrap anything up? No, not really. We do get a very important bit of closure, but that's kind of it. So, final chapter, Lucky. The other Lucky approaches the spotlight in like the inner Lucky universe where Lucky is standing. And Lucky says to his other self, I get it. If I'm here, that means, oh, this body chose me and I've kept you locked up here. So why am I here? Because all 7 of us have to play piano together. Making dreams come true is a good thing. So just let me out, because this is where you belong. And the other Lucky says, no, that ends now. I'm the one who's been chosen now. And I'm going to lock you up in here. And the primary Lucky Prime says, you can't do that. And other Lucky says, whoa, ha ha ha, and points and says, you've always denied me that way. But it looks like I'm needed for this body to live. I can't think like you. Allow me to ask you one last question. Because he goes all negative and creepy in this second. And he says, what do you think of me? And Lucky Prime says, well, I think that you're no good. Something's wrong with you. But I can use you if it suits me. Hey, why didn't you show up when we had the 4-on-4 battle? I could have gotten closer to my dream if you did that. And the other Lucky says, well then, the days of miracles are over. And we get like flashes of like some of the highlights of the series. Lucky meeting Furusu, making good with Reijiro, Mimin getting okay, Fanta being a dick, and Sora Chica being creepy. And the other Lucky says, the curtain's falling. I won't use you. Your existence has enough meaning. Guilt, remorse, that's what you are to me starting today. And he steps forward, grabs the original Lucky by the wrists, and tosses him out of the spotlight, steps into it, and the light goes out. In the real world, Lucky with other Lucky as the primary personality is standing across from his father, and he says to himself, he thinks to himself, oh, I finally get to meet him. He
has the same eyes as well. You'll notice he has like the piano slit eyes.
Yes.
The piano gan, or whatever we'd call it.
Piano gan. But he says, but Dad, you hit me. This is my chance to get him back. To hit my precious dad with my precious hands. It's wrong to hit a parent. It's important to respect your parents. It's worse for a parent to hit their child. And Gakwan starts to say to Lucky, who is getting warmed up, and he just approaches him and says, welcome home. And Lucky goes, I'm home, boy! Looks him across the face. End of series.
Fin credits, no more.
That's it. All right.
This is such a difficult chapter to like consume, because it is hard not to read this as sort of almost like a form of bad ending, because I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that like Genius Lucky takes over, because I think there was very much a clear idea that like Lucky Prime, or what Miracle Lucky, whatever you want to call him, was running out of like real room to stand on. Like their dream was done. The mom's gone. Like it's never gonna happen. They weren't able to fully convince Fanta of their ways. Sora Chica had very clearly like sort of set like, you're not on my level. It was clear that like Lucky needed to do something else, and like accessing Genius Lucky is like a way this story would have gone. But the way it's portrayed here, it doesn't sound like there's going to be any kind of give or take. It sounds like that Lucky is gone and only exists as something for Genius Lucky to look upon as motivation, to just be like, all of this grief that you failed to like deal with, I will now utilize in my genius music playing, essentially. And the only relationship sort of catharsis we get then of that that resolution is him being like, I'm gonna punch my dad, which is like sort of satisfying, but like that's just the end of it. That's like, there is no continuation unless like we get like, you know, an extra chapter in the volumes or something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy to see a series just end this way. No, and they had many more adventures. No, you know, positive outlook towards the future. It's like, no, the QB took over Naruto's body and is promising to stay in control of it forever. And that's just kind of like, I guess, what happens when you have a series where the hero is at their lowest moment when the series gets canceled, basically. So, look, PPP was a very interesting series to have as part of the recap. It led to me doing a bit that I greatly underestimated how long I would have to carry it on for. Not since Unohana is dead and never coming back have I so underestimated how much I would have to stick to a gimmick. But here we are, a year later, and it's been an interesting ride that frequently had some beautiful moments, some very gut-punching chapters that I'm glad that we've gotten to experience together. And also, I'm glad to know that Mamin and Maloli are vacationing in the Amazon being girlfriends. That's just that as far as I'm concerned, good ending for the series.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get like an ending chapter for the series, just read that chapter again. It was basically a conclusion.
Also, I do like, despite the horror of like, oh man, the genius personality is just like in control now. I do love how they're just like cracking knuckles walking up to Gakwana. He's just no suspicion of what's gonna happen while he's like
yeah, he's it was very good. Good stuff. We do have to move on, so
Mashle,
let's move on to 2 chapters of Mashle Magic and Muscle, starting with chapter 144, Mash Burn Dead and the Desperate Straits. The eclipse has happened. All the hearts we see there get slurped up inside of Innocent Zero, and he's like, I'm super powerful! And we get a big full-page spread of Innocent Zero hovering there in all of his glory. The art is legitimately beyond incredible. It's so crazy.
It's gorgeous.
He has the great line of, you might notice a slight change in me, as he has
so funny.
He has eyes across his chest and sternum and giant angel wings now.
And also just like random like crystals growing out of his shoulders.
Yeah. Mash responds with, oh, is he finally done? Everyone's like, is that all he has? Mash goes to punch him. He's like, all right, here we go. And there's just like the sidestep super fast move, and Mash goes down as Innocent Zero is clutching his heart, and even Mash is like, huh? Everyone else watching is like, what? And Mash falls to the ground. He's like, the last heart is mine. I did it. Not gonna attain my perfect form. I just ripped it straight out of his body. No one can stand against me. Live as my slaves or die. And then Mash gets up and starts fighting Innocent Zero, and he's like, what the fuck? He kicks Mash away. He's like, humans can maintain consciousness for up to 3 minutes after their heart stops, but even though the heart has been removed and he's still moving, what life force does he have? And Mash has now been like impaled to the wall with clock hands, and everyone's just like, oh no. And Mash is like, I never got to try the new flavors of Goblin Cream Puffs winter menu. And everyone, like, the joke is like, what kind of last words are that? But everyone's like, oh my god, like, Mash is dead.
Yeah.
which moves us into chapter 145 of Mashle, Magic and Muscles, Mash Bird Dead, and the Secret Savior. So everyone's like, holy crap, Mash is down. Innocent Zero is like, he's dead, but is this Sweat? Like, what's going on? You know what? I'm just going to destroy his body. I mean, who knows what he could possibly do. When like there's like a throw from far away, and I forget this, Ochoa, I think is his name, gets thrown up by Meliadul into Innocent Zero. He's like,
yeah, she's like, I've got to do something. You know, they're up on a castle floating in the sky. So you go do something and just throws him up there. It's because, yeah.
So Ochoa's like, let me help you destroy the world, please. And he just starts punching Mash.
He's just the worst.
He sucks so much. He's like, how dare you get in Innocent Zero's way? And he starts spitting on him and shit. And he's like, see, I'll do anything for you. And Innocent Zero's like, okay, fine. Use this rock to smash in Mass Burn Dead's face. And Ochoa's like, oh, do it? Well, he's dead. So that makes it okay, sweet.
No!
He's actually doing it. He's just about to smash his head in. But something hits him, and he goes fine. And we see a cream puff hit the ground, Nick. He's like, how? Mash Burn Dead is gone! And you useless fool! And he slaps Ochoa away. He's like, fine. They must be nearby. Another shot goes by, and he's blocking it. He's like, who dares stand in my way? And we cut over, and we see that the rest of the gang has basically rescued Mash. And they're like, holy shit. He's lost his heart, but he is still breathing. Like, his will to live is insane. We have to, flee. We have to get Mash over to Meliadul. Like, we need to, get this going. But the real surprise here was our unexpected savior. And it's Caldo Gehenna, I believe, who's like, we hope you're able to buy us time. And we cut back to Innocent Zero, and there's all these, attacks hitting him. And he's just like, this power is beyond that of any ordinary magic user. But I see you. And he blocks an attack that, turns to water in his hands. He's like, so it is you. And we see the figure approaching saying, Mash Burn Dead, you rescued me from the darkness. And now it's my turn to save you. And who should be there, Nick, but the sixth son, Domina. Remember Domina, yep. Nick?
Yeah, Mash did a bucket brigade in order to beat him.
Yeah. And that's basically the end of the chapter. Is Domina is going to try to hold him off. Meanwhile, Meliadul is dashing to try to save Mash. You can see that Lemon God Lover is trying to run as well, but Meliadul's just immediately outpaced her.
Oh yeah. Also, Finn has been using his ability to try and heal Mash, but it's like, oh, dude, his heart's gone.
He doesn't have a heart, so yeah.
So he's doing his best.
Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about the Elusive Samurai. So starting with chapter 98, Hojo Peace, 1335. Tokiyuki wakes up in his home. He can't believe it. He gets to, dine on saltwater fish for fresh for the first time in forever. But he says, but it reminds him of the time that, his friends, caught the sea bream for him. And he's like, hey, guys, thank you for helping me when I had nothing. It's very nice. It's like, hey, he hasn't forgotten, how far he's come and where he was prior to this. A bunch of the troops bow before Tokiyuki when he comes out and greets them, and he expresses gratitude for all their efforts. And he, tells them, look, I know we don't have a lot of experience, but I hold one hope that the people, warriors, courtiers will create a world where no one has to die needlessly. Oh, Tokiyuki. So... and there's also, just people observing, it's kind of a natural leader, but that's because, he grew up around, kings and lords and stuff, so he just kind of knows how to just behave the right way and everything. A number of people from, the Hojo home greet him, and he's reunited with a number of people who, have seen him grow and everything. There's a bunch of paperwork that needs to be done, which Yasuye and Yorishige both have to work on. Tokiyuki also goes to visit his family's graves, and a guy called Kenko Hoshi, a bizarre, suspicious-looking monk, is there, and we're introduced to him. Yep. He's also famous because poems and he wrote stuff. It's like he knows Tokiyuki. All right, goodbye, historical cameo. Goodbye.
I know the series is entirely historical, but it is very funny, the idea of like, thank you for the history lesson, Mr. Lincoln. Now I'm back off on my adventure.
Pretty much. Then Tokiyuki's like, guys, I want to take you all to meet someone. They're like, okay, and that brings us to chapter 99, Smithery. But as Tokiyuki's leading people somewhere, he trips and falls, and oh my gosh, a creepy-looking woman is gonna like kick him in the neck. But in fact, she actually like lifts his foot up with his head up with her foot, and then kind of props him up on the knee. And she says, "Oh, I'm sorry for doing it this way, but my hands aren't really useful." And they look closely at her hands, which she's carrying like some big heavy things in, but she's doing it by like pressing against the undersides because she doesn't have fingers. It turns out she was a swordswoman, and she was trying to guard her master long enough so that he could commit seppuku and die with honor. But, quote, before I could slay even 20 enemies, she got struck on the fingers, like on her sword handle, and it chopped her fingers off, so she can't wield a sword anymore. And she explains, like, look, I considered, actually just like taking my own life, but I couldn't help but want to just hold a sword again. And so everyone's like, well, but there's, and so Toki's like, I bet you can do something. And so he takes her to see a smithy, not just any smithy though. It's Masamune, that Masamune, that Masamune who does the sword things, and he's got a bunch of like facial markings and stuff. So he immediately sizes up the girl that they have met and is like, yeah, I've got a sharp idea. Yep. And basically he crafts a leg sword for her because he's like, yeah, she's got really strong legs, and also I made these like gauntlets that have built-in fingers in them and stuff. They gave her a haircut because her hair was getting all long and straggly, and so she can kick with the sword stuff, and she's very overcome with emotion, like, I can fight again. She's very happy. And then Masamune turns to Ayako and Kojiro, and he just says, you two look interesting. Try and kill each other. I'll make something for the one who deserves it. Okay.
Yeah, that sure is a way to like end the chapter. So like, yeah, there's this new character, and she's just kind of like abruptly introduced into the story. And given like a whole backstory, and then like, hey, we're gonna solve your problem in the same chapter you're introduced in, and I feel like I want to like this character because her backstory is interesting, and like I think her aesthetic is kind of cool, but it is just a thing that happens very quickly, and then the chapter ends with Masamune being like, "You two fight each other to the death," and you're like, what?
I'll make a cool sword for the winner.
You're like, what is happening? What am I reading? What was this
Fight
chapter?
to the death, children! Come on!
Just very strange. Like, I know we're like kind of preparing for a new saga of this series or whatever, but this definitely was like a strange chapter of detail.
Yes, I agree. It was weird, but I mean, it was. I kind of liked it for the same reasons you did. I do like Sheena is her name, by the way. I do think that she has potential as a character, but it's a very that old guy in Toriko that you hated, who was like, he's just like, here's my backstory. The problem solved in the same chapter.
Yeah, it's definitely not the best thing if they're not going to use this character a whole lot. And even then, it's not a great sign when you resolve everything in a single chapter for. Let's talk, Nick, about 2 chapters of Black Clover, starting with page 351, with the shogun of the Land of the Sun. Asta's trying to fight the 5-headed monster, but it's not working. The heads keep regenerating. But we don't cover that. We cover the ice guy who's fighting Yosuga Sugar. You are my gal. Da, 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 da.
Don't do that every time, please.
I don't even remember what I did this time. So he's like, time for my backstory. I was a rival of the other guy who's Ryu. Why don't I have a wacky name for him yet? Anyways, yeah, I was like a rival for him, and we fought all the time. But then like a plague struck the land, and it's gonna kill everybody. But there's a way to stop it. You got to get the 10 Gensetsu, where you get the magic eyes, let you see everything. But to do it, we'll sacrifice all of your Yoryoku. And like, that's crazy. Like, oh, I was the strongest. Losing my Yoryoku was the only thing that scared me. If it means lose it for a bit in something I might not even find, then it should be better for those with weak Yoryoku. But then the Shogun's like, I'll do it. Take my Yoryoku. I'll just happily do it. And it was, losing his strength actually didn't get the people to hate him, Nick. In fact, they were more inspired by him than ever. And he had gathered 6 loyal retainers and was finally going to be heralded as the Shogun. And they're like, oh, but you, sugar, da, da, your power is the strongest. So maybe you'd be the best choice. He's like, nah. I'm the 7th member of the Ryuzen 7, which didn't have a number back then. That would be weird if they did. So
he did say just of the Ryuzen.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, yeah.
So he's like, boom, and he reveals his power. He turns into an iron golem of war and beats the ice dude that has to beat like a really long time ago. So they're like, all right. I'm gonna shout to all my Ryuzen 7 people. We gotta keep fighting, basically, which leads us into chapter page 352. Well done. So why can I not remember this character's name? We literally Ryu. I know, but I keep thinking it's something more. I'm like,
do we need to give him?
He might need. How about I call him Hadouken?
Right, hang on.
Why? Because Ryu does the Hadouken. I think this one's gonna stick. Hadouken over here is just like,
that's not even how you say it.
Hadouken. Well, I don't want to put my whole fucking podussy into it every time I say it.
We are losing our minds.
It's just the definition. So Hadouken is just like, I'm gonna use my special eyes to see everything, and
why don't you just call him Ken if you're gonna do that?
I'm never gonna remember Ken. Maybe his name should be Podussy. As lesson. He's just like, I gotta use my special eyes, and I can see where everything's going. Bard dude's just like, I'm gonna strengthen everybody up. All right, let's line up the heads. We basically gotta defeat them all at the same time. They're all doing it. Ninja mask guys, those like, oh, I'm so tired. My wound's so deep. He's gonna die. But then, Ichika shows up, and she's like, I won't let that happen. Asta, it's up to you. And Asta does a big Zetten attack, cuts off all 5 heads at once. Hadouken saved the day. Everybody did their job. Well done, everybody.
I like these chapters of Black Clover. I think that the final 2-page spread of beating the 5-headed dragon is like, oh, that's just like nice and aesthetically pleasing to see the 5 heads in a row get all cut in a big long spread. It's nice. I like that Ichiga gets to rejoin the fight. It's nice. I also even like Yosuka's like backstory thing. I like just, his explanation of like, yeah, me and Ryu were like combat rivals and one of us was going to be the Shogun. But then when one of us needed to step up, he literally just cast aside that power. So yeah, he is absolutely the guy who deserves to be the Shogun because he's the one who does everything to help the people. And he's just very content with like, yeah, and I'll just be the really, really strong guy who helps him. And I like that story of like, look, I'm the strongest. Ryu's the greatest. It's like, that's cool. It's, a nice, simple character to kind of get behind. Which, like, at this point, if we're introducing characters, yes, please keep the backstory nice and simple and easy to understand. So, All right, Quinn.
Let's do it.
We've got 2 chapters of One Piece to talk about today. Chapter 1075, Lab Phase Death Game. So there is communication going on between the different Vegapunks, but communication's being lost, and Vegapunk 1 realizes, what the hell is that? There's a figure that's breaking the cameras and taking out the cam snails, so is cutting off our visibility of different areas. What's going on? So, and also, like, the communications are down. Luffy can't keep in touch with the people who have parted ways. We kind of just cut around to see where the different groups are. For example, Nami finds a microwave full of gems.
Yep.
Good for her. Yep, she's taking those with her.
It's worth noting that we see these groups kind of almost broken up into like various different, like, oh, it's a couple members of the Straw Hats, and then like somebody we don't really know in a situation where there's potentially a secret traitor.
Yes, that's true. Because there's something going on with all that. Shaka, Vegapunk 1 is still trying to get in touch with everyone. And Luffy says, like, hey, I was hearing their voices until just a second ago. I'm pretty sure that I didn't break this one, which is great wording on Luffy's part. But Shaka like points out, like, no, look at the camera feeds. They're going out one by one. Someone inside the lab is sabotaging stuff. We cut around to some of the other groups just to establish, like, how tall Vegapunk 6 is.
Yeah, she's giant. She's taking poops for everybody, so I guess it makes sense.
That's true. I also like the size playing with all these different groups. So, like, you know, the smaller ones go with like the bigger Straw Hats, for example. So, you know, it's like Sanji and Stussy, and then Jinbei, and then, you know, you've got like Vegapunk 5 and Vegapunk 6 with some of the more normal size Straw Hats. So it's like, okay, it's nice, you know, kind of dynamic crowd groups and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pythagoras, Vegapunk 3. Oh my God, what happened? He got blued up. His head's blown off. What happened? His head is now just kind of like winding around in little tiny legs and stuff. So they're like, what's going on? There's something happening. Some sort of enemy is attacking, but I don't know. But I saw something. I find it impossible to grasp, but my eyes can't be mistaken. Could we have made a mistake in the design stage? Where's York? And York has gone over and is petting the Hancock Seraphim on the head, and immediately gets turned to stone by her ability and knocked over. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
They try and order the Seraphim to stop because, oh my gosh, she should, you know, be under Vegapunk's command. Why isn't she listening to orders? She like starts blasting stuff, and so this group is falling through the air. They're still trying to get in touch with Vegapunk 1. Meanwhile, Zoro has just been attacked by the Kuma and Mihawk Seraphims, and he's having to guard Kaku and Lucci. I keep on doing that with Lucci. And he's just like, I can't just like let these guys die while they're helpless and in handcuffs like this. It'll just, you know, it just won't feel good. So, understand. So they're trying to figure out like what to do. And Vegapunk once says to everyone, like, look, if they're not obeying me, then that has to mean that Vegapunk gave them their orders. And if the downed radio and being trapped inside the barrier were all planned from the start, someone is trying to kill us all. Gasp. At that moment, Lucci and Kaku wake up, and they say, hey, look, we like leave the scores aside, and we'll team up for a bit. So take off these cuffs, and we can help. And Luffy and Zoro was like, I don't want to do that.
It's a very funny thing where like neither of you seem to.
I don't want to do that. It's a great way to end the chapter, which would take us into chapter 1076, Old Friends. Zoro and Luffy are, you know, like not about this idea, but Kaku's like, hey, look, if we do this, then we'll play nice and go right back in the cuffs. And Luffy's like, oh, okay. Just immediately believes.
He's like, oh, if they're gonna do that,
okay. The Seraphim Mihawk starts attacking, and not only is he attacking with his swords, he's got a leg sword thing. And so Zoro recognized this as like, wait a minute, is that a dice fruit ability? What the hell? So that's going on. And Vegapunk 1 questions Lucci and Kaku what they're doing there, and Lucci just flat out says like, "Oh, we're here to assassinate the 7 Vegapunks." Kaku's like, "We're still in handcuffs. Don't tell him that.
Stop saying this stuff."
And Vegapunk 1's like, and I presume you've got something in store for Stussy since she betrayed you. And Lucci's like, she will pay the price. not even not lying, just not even like putting a little bit of a nice spin on.
He's being very forward about this.
Yeah. They hear Nami screaming from somewhere kind of nearby. And so Luffy says like, all right, come on, give me the cuff keys. And Vegapunk 1's like, all right, I'll let you make the call. And Luffy says, hey, after we've stopped all 4 of them, you better not go after my friends in the Vegapunks just because you can't beat me in a fight. Got that? And Zoro says like, oh, come on, don't be stupid, Luffy. They're not gonna. And Luffy's like, fine, I'm gonna kill you first.
I do love it. He's like, fine by me. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you anyway. I don't even need to do that. I can beat you anyway.
All of Luffy's rivals are stupid.
Yeah, I like it because we've never known Lucci's really been stupid. He didn't really get like an opportunity to reveal his character until now, and you're just like, oh, he's also an idiot. That's good to know.
The Kuma Seraphim starts to launch a big attack. A massive paw blast starts to go off, but Luffy has released the CP0 people from their cuffs. He goes into Gear 4 and says, sorry, Bonnie, does a Kong gun right in the Kuma's gut, while Lucci helps out with his 6 King pistol in his man-beast form. And Kaku and Zoro team up on the Mihawk one, too. Yeah. Simultaneous like passing slash abilities. So they're knocked through walls. Very cool. In that moment, inside the lab, a bunch of other intelligence officers were captured. Okay. Over the course of 2 months. They came to investigate Egghead at some point. The Sea Beast weapons attack drove us to here. And all the other Cipher Police who came after them also got just vanished and wound up here. And now Vegapunk is sitting outside of their cell. They're like, I mean, we kind of assumed you were the cause of this, Dr. Vegapunk. And Vegapunk says, nope, I had no idea. To think all of this was happening on Egghead, under my nose, that means trouble. And it explains one other thing. There shouldn't have been any way for the government to find out about the poneglyph research happening here. Ooh, who is the mole?
Interesting.
So there's a bunch of ships that are heading for Egghead, 100 ships, in fact. And we're not going to deal with that right now. Instead, on an island in the New World, in a bar at a little port along the coast, Shanks shows up. No, wait, he doesn't show up. He's been there. He's drinking his giant sake dish. And someone from his crew comes in and says, like, Captain, this guy attacked us. So Shanks says, this kind of sucks. I think I spent a bit too much time talking. He goes on to say, you can't blame us for wanting to catch up when old friends who thought each other dead are reunited. And members of his crew are like, oh, our enemy must be furious. So Shanks says that they're going to sail. A little kid is like, is there going to be a war, Shanks? And Shanks says, I don't want to see major harm come to this place. Will you help me with that? Dory and Brogy. And it's the frickin' giants from forever ago.
From 20 years ago, maybe?
Something like that. They've joined up with Shanks' crew along with some other giants. And they say,
they're
all
on
right.
They're on Elbath.
Yep. And Shanks says, do you want me to fight me here and now, or leave your road poneglyph and flee? Make your choice. And kids decided to pick a fight. So Captain Kidd has shown up at Elbaf, his ships are, just approaching it, and the ships along the shore are like kind of like just shooting at him, not very aggressively, but they recognize that like all these pirate crews that are kind of aiming at us, they belong to Shanks's, fleet, and they kind of bring up like, hey, the last time that this happened, we didn't even like actually get an audience with Red Hair Shanks. We just got the shit beaten out of us. And you lost your arm. Killer either finds this funny or is compelled to laugh.
Yeah, I was gonna say he probably just has to still laugh from the smile.
And they're like, yeah, and they're not going to stop at an arm this time. They'll take your life. So Shanks starts to walk towards the shore. Admirers in the dozens clinging on to him, like, oh my god, it's Shanks! And Kid says in response to Killer's warning, that may be so, but only if I lose. I mean, yeah, I guess so.
I mean, I guess that
he
is true.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yes, you've got him there.
I'm glad, Nick, that my decades of prodding Shanks with a stick from afar, going, "Come on, do something," is finally paying off. I mean, it's a wild thing. The situation, and I do like it that Luffy's two biggest allies from the last arc are both about to fight another emperor, but in very different ways. It feels impossible that this could go well for Kid, but who knows? Anything could happen. I feel like we're not going to cut back to this. I do love the little allusion at the beginning to the first chapter of One Piece where it's like a kid be like, "Oh, can I join you?" It's just like, nice try, Squirt, but I don't take little kids on board with me and stuff like that. Like it's nice, it's fun, but like I don't know when we're gonna get back.
Yeah, really.
I feel like we're gonna come back and Kid's gonna be like dead on a spike or some shit like that. I just don't know what they're gonna do, but I can't.
Shanks, you were uncharacteristically, sadistically brutal.
Or how furious I would be if we cut back and it's Shanks dead on the ground and it's Kid being like, "He wasn't that tough." Dude was actually pretty easy.
Red hair who?
He didn't even have a devil fruit. This dude sucked.
He also had one arm. Fuck him.
Yeah.
He tried doing this thing where he glared at me and I was like, what are you doing? And I punched him.
I closed my eyes and I punched him in the penis. With my metal arm that he doesn't have. Stupid. If he'd had a devil fruit, maybe he could make an arm out of metal. Anyway, I'm taking his stuff.
It's the worst criticisms of like One Piece character. He doesn't have a devil fruit. He's not tough. Yeah. All right. God, Quinn, that is it for this week of Weekly Manga Recap. Tell me, what was your favorite chapter?
Favorite chapter? I'm trying to think of everything we read.
Mm-hmm. I can start us off.
Okay.
My favorite chapter this week was from Blue Box. I just thought that the very emotional and direct words from Chinatsu, which we rarely get to see from her because she's just kind of always like cool and collected, having everything that she's been dealing with in the last several chapters just coming out of her, while combined with not a confession of love, but a confession of how closely she feels to Taiki and just how logically but also genuinely and emotionally she feels about him and his importance to her life or where she is now. All very, very awesome stuff. And I am waiting with bated breath to find out how this concludes. Also, there's a shuttle run happening it's like, honestly, who cares?
That was a very poignant and well-examined reason why Blue Box is your favorite. Cipher Academy is my favorite of the week because it made me make chuckles. I got a couple big laughs out of it, very silly, and I needed that. And on that same energy, my character of the week is Creed from Undead Unluck. Because, Nick, when you decrease a life all the way down, you can't get it back.
So dumb.
Fuck, it was great, and I love it. Excellent.
My character of the week, for one very simple reason, is going to be Tokuyami. He turned into a giant shadow monster and punched Alpha in the face, and I loved it. That's all I got.
That is it. The audience, by the way, picked PPPPP as their chapter of the week, and Shinatsu from Blue Box as the character of the week.
Totally get it. All right, guys, that is going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap. We want to thank you for joining us for this very big special episode of the show where we had a nice big discussion about Weekly Manga Recap and had to double up on some stuff that we didn't cover last week. We will have more next Wednesday. We record the shows here on twitch.tv/RoloT at around 7:30 Eastern Time. We do make a post to social media when that happens, but also you can just join our Discord server and you can find out when it's going live from there. The Discord link will be under the description of this video if you're or audio podcast if you're listening to the recording. We have our past episodes on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, also available through iTunes and Spotify and generally anywhere podcasts can be listened to. Video versions on youtube.com/weekly manga recap, where you can also see the opening sequence done for us by Milo Jack Stillitz and Winston Del Cheddar, and occasionally see title cards done for us by Steve Man, whose art you can see wherever boobs are allowed to be drawn all across the internet under the name Steve Man Art. We would like to thank everyone who helps support the show. You can support us financially if you wish to at patreon.com/weekly manga recap, or just join the Discord server, be part of the community. We would love to have you there to participate in the bi-weekly game nights that happen, the discussions of chapters as they come out week to week, the discussions of series that we take as recommendations, which you can also add your own if you check out the Google Doc maintained by Ninja X3i, which also tracks a bunch of statistics and history associated with the show. And there's a list of recommendations that you can make, and also just like add your seconds or third votes to if you see something that's already on there that we haven't covered yet. Yes. Speaking of which, Quinn, there's been something missing from Weekly Manga Recap for a couple of months.
Okay.
With Eden Zero currently not part of the recap due to publishing rights reasons.
Please no.
There's been a distinct lack of horny bullshit in our lives.
Please no.
And that is why our next recommendation is going to be Monster Musume, Life with Monster Girls.
I mean, it's better than what I was worried.
There's so many things I could have picked. Yeah.
I was so worried. You were like, you know what we've been missing in our life? Mashima Hero. Let's read 100 Tale Quest. God, this is like a monster fucking series, isn't it?
Pretty much. Monster Girl, yes.
They don't have sex with them?
It's not a hentai series, no.
Okay, well, I remember at one point adding it to a poll, like, what we should add to Weekly Manga Recap, and then someone messaged me, like, you know, that's like a monster fucking series, right? I was like, I don't know, someone just suggested it.
Monster Musume is not a monster fucking series, but there's lots of boobs in it.
Okay,
so.
Well, that's fine. Boobs are natural, Nick.
So sex, Quinn.
No, that's unnatural in monsters.
That thing that needs to happen for stuff to be born, the most unnatural thing in the world.
Ew, gross. All right.